Well, Vincent, hey, congratulations for what Josiah saw.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to finally have it out to an audience.
I know it's already out on Shudder today. So how do you feel about that?
Well, considering it's been 9 years since I first read it, um, it's sort of I look at it when you make a movie, it's kind of like you raised a child and you just send them off to college. So I just sent my kid off to college and I hope I raised it right.
Well, I could tell you, I viewed the film and I did not see your shocking twist coming, but that's why we love these type of movies.
Awesome. Well, no, that's good. It's definitely something I was cognizant while filming, hoping we got that right. And you give people just the right amount of push and pull and nuggets thrown in there. But yeah, no, I'm glad it worked for you.
9 years is a very long time for such a project to stick around for. So what initially drew you into this film? I'm actually guessing it's probably the captivating story.
Yeah, initially, Robert Dilts was sending me pages as he was writing, and it was about 20 or 30 pages. He sent me essentially, I think, the first chapter very quickly, and it hit me like a ton of bricks by the end of it, and by the end of that chapter, and I was really just curious where it was going. I knew was kind of interested in doing a horror, and I just felt that's where this was going, in an intelligent way, in a way that I just felt was very atmospheric. I was just really interested in his writing. And it 9 years is just from script to coming out. We had started filming 3 years ago, right before the pandemic. We had filmed this thing and luckily finished before the pandemic happened. So we delayed it about a year, so it wouldn't, we tried to avoid the virtual festivals and stuff like that.
Now I was going to bring this up because when I was watching it, in its own way, it didn't feel like a horror. But then after thinking about it, there are plenty of horror elements in this film. Is that what you were going for?
Yeah, I think, to me, as a filmmaker, I was interested in the horror and human nature here, and trying to bridge horror to this, what could be perceived as drama, by the score, the cinematography, the tone of it, to help really, make it feel like that's the direction you were going. But this is obviously a movie that you have to invest in as a viewer. I think you have to put your phone down. You can't walk away. You really have to live in this movie, and it requires that from the audience a bit, to then earn that horror that I think you want as a viewer. Some people, I think, this isn't the type of horror they like and are just not going to respond to it. But I think there are those fans and those people that are interested in sort of doing some work and figuring things out, and sitting with it, because it's one of those, I think, that provokes some stuff.
Absolutely. And the only reason why I brought that up because it felt like a drama to me, and coincidentally I saw your last movie, and then I go at the Los Angeles Film Festival a few years back.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So I get that sense, the similarity of dramas in its own in that way.
Yeah, I mean, in any movie, I like to tackle the humanity in people, and how, sort of complex characters, flawed characters, people that are deemed monsters, but like, where do you bring the humanity in them? Because they are human beings, so you can't just call somebody a monster. You have to define it. You have to explain where that came from. And so, even, just because if something is a horror movie, let's say I did a slasher, or a reboot of a famous piece of content, I would want to put as much work into that character development regardless. And so, yeah, I mean, and then I Go was a special story, special book adaptation that had these complex characters. So that's just kind of what I respond to, I think, as a filmmaker.
And that too was a terrific movie.
Thanks.
I enjoy that movie. So in the case, this being your first horror film, how did you want to approach it? Because I noticed the music and the shadows for a film like this.
Yeah, it's something that I guess I learned as a filmmaker is how in sync cinematography, production design, costume design, they all sort of play a part, and even the music play a part in sort of getting into your subconscious on a level that, in a way that sometimes you don't realize. I remember the first time I saw the movie He Got Game by Spike Lee. I was 17. I was pretty young and impressionable, and just how that utilized the score and the cinematography, it just got in my head in a way, and the movie hadn't. And so I just had learned that how in sync you need every department to be to kind of achieve the goal you want. And some of the things did the work for us. You walk into that farmhouse and the character and the settings in Oklahoma where we filmed, and it's just it does half of the work for you in terms of the dread, or like, you see this place and you're like, wow, that's creepy, dude. I wouldn't want to stay here. And in terms of execution, that was something I focused on, was making sure all those things blended into a sort of creepy, ominous tone.
I, I I I have to say that farmhouse was very creepy and very dead, I wasn't even sure what farm that was that we tried
Yeah.
to create a movie.
Yeah, we got lucky finding a place that just had everything we needed. And I was a little stressed about that because the script required it to be a two-story house, dilapidated, to have a tree that was significantly of size out front. Everything needed to be dead in terms of the plant life, and it just, we drove up there, walked in, and it was just sort of instant, like this is the place.
No, one of the things that I was trying to pinpoint and was guessing what period this film was, because by the setting, by the during the first chapter, by the setting and the clothing, you couldn't tell what period it was. And then in the second chapter with the gypsies, that even threw me off. So tell us about trying to, I want to guess this was a present day piece, not a period piece.
Yeah, no, it's roughly present day, I would say. Definitely something we focused on was that first chapter to feel like a memory, to feel like you're in the past, but also just a place that's sort of forgotten would die off like that. And I think the farmhouse, and for this family, the past it's something that they all run away from, basically. So and also based on how the first chapter ends and what you learn by the end, and sort of how things play out, it was definitely a device where I didn't want people to have their bearings on what time period it was. And so I like that worked, because it brings you to sort of where you're like, oh, this is present day. Interesting, because you start thinking more about what that may mean for for the movie. It helps, I think, the Thomas character and sort of what you're supposed to take from him.
Tell us about the cast that you actually use for this film. I mean, to me, Robert Patrick was quite memorizing and kind of a bit scary in this film.
Yeah, you want to know just how it was to work with him?
Yes.
Robert was so dedicated to getting this script, basically honoring the script, because it's very much written the way they would talk, or Robert Dilts wrote in a very specific way for the Josiah character. There's a lot of talk. He has a lot of those sort of monologues and a lot of dialogue. And Robert Patrick wanted to really honor that and get it right. And so he was very committed. Just a gem, to be honest. To have him working on a budget of this size and commit to a role that demanding, it's amazing to see him, and what a good job he did. Nick Stahl, I had seen that he was back to acting, and after I think he was back for about a year, and his headshot, it really felt right. But the interesting thing about him and the Eli character, at least in the script, it wasn't. Eli was a little more confident, a little more of a small town Adonis, in really good shape. And something Nick had was this more, I think, a gentle nature to him, a little more like a sweet side, just inherently. Nick has that. And I felt like he had these qualities that the Eli character in the script didn't have, that would make the audience root for him a bit more. And so Nick is one of the sweetest, just easygoing guys. And he had worked with Kelli Garner on Bully 20 years before, or roughly around there. And so I knew them as twins would really work. And, we just made her an offer, and we're lucky enough to get her. I mean, it's funny, once you get to where you're almost filming is when you're making offers to people and casting last minute and finding who's right. And the key was like, these 4 people are like family, and you can see they all have blue eyes. It just was really cool how that worked out. And Scott Haze, attaching him in 2015, 4 years before we even filmed, I think the movie can totally collapse if he portrayed that role incorrectly, or if it just didn't work. So he killed it. It was really awesome to see his work, because Scott is a very he cares, like he really cares about not just his role, but like the film working. And he was an exec producer on this as well. So yeah, I have nothing but positive things to say about our cast. Tony Hale was in And Then I Go with me, or in my previous film. And he's the kind of guy I just want in every movie. He wanted to grow a beard, and I really liked seeing him do something that I don't think he had done in a more dramatic sense. And Jake Weber is one of the most technically professional people I've ever worked with, hitting his marks, knowing the continuity. He would do a whole monologue take, and he goes, "Is that what the take we're sticking with?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're going with that one." And he goes, "All right, I lit the cigarette here. I put my feet up." He just knew everything he did at every line. I had never seen somebody do that. So that was really cool. So
Cool.
I'm just lucky to have a cast like this on this level.
Well, I'm glad everything worked out. Well, let me wrap it up with one more thing, because your film is divided in 3 chapters, and some people may actually feel it felt like 4. Could you talk about the approach of the different chapters, and do you approach them sort of like it's almost like its own long short films in its own
Yeah. Well, I just knew while I was trying to get this made, if production companies, if they were saying things like, "Oh, can you intercut these chapters? How about we do that?" I think it'd be more interesting. It just, for me, what attracted me to this story was the unique structure on top of the rich characters. And so I committed to those those chapters for this. I thought they were an interesting way to really invest in each person. And yeah, some people think it's 3 chapters, some think it's 4. I attribute the end of the movie and what happens at the end I attach that still personally to Mary's chapter. I think it still ultimately focuses more on her and sort of what really brought them here, and everything that transpires is more or less focused with her, in my opinion. But yeah, I just I thought it was that first chapter ends in a way that is so heavy and intense that I felt like we needed to get away from that farmhouse. And I like that as a device that goes, we're going to get away from here now. I don't know what's going to be happening, but you're going back. And I don't know what's going to happen when you go back. And I feel like that first chapter really sets you up to not ever want to go back to that farmhouse. And so I think if you intercut these chapters, I actually don't think the movie works at all. I think it would be a disaster. Because I've tried to intercut it when it was in the screenplay just as an experiment, and I thought I couldn't even imagine what that movie would be like.
You're right. It would probably be a totally different movie. Well, yeah. Vincent, hey, congratulations once again for what Josiah Saw on Shudder right now. Thank you very much for carrying this conversation, and I appreciate your movies. Keep on doing these dramatic movies.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate your time and thoughtful questions.
Hey, thank you. Next time.
All right, good.